Let's do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome into the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indie's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indie's Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, maybe you're watching on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith. Or maybe you're listening via that Indie Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. If you want more from me, as always, go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. The Indiana Pacers are now 2-0 this year in playoff games where they trail by 7 in the final 90 seconds of the game. Every other team in the last 20 years is 1-384. The Pacers have now won 2 improbable games in the last week. You have game 5 against Milwaukee, trailed by 7 with 35 seconds left, and they won. And then they trailed by 7 last night with 48 seconds left, and they won. And it speaks to who this team is in such a big way. They are tough. They're resilient. They never say die. Tyrese Haliburton is an exceptional leader. He does a great job of just staying in it. These guys follow him. Aaron Nesmith does an excellent job of setting the tone. They just have a bunch of gamers. They just have a bunch of dudes who just find ways to make plays when it really counts. And you needed that last night because, quite frankly, the Pacers had zero business whatsoever winning that game. Donovan Mitchell has the performance of a lifetime, 48 points and 9 assists. Can't play any better than that. Max Strus and Sam Merrill both shot the ball well from 3. Sam Merrill was 4 of 9, Max Strus 5 of 12. Jared Allen scored 22 points. The Cavaliers took 5 more shots from the field than the Pacers. They took more free throws than the Pacers. The Pacers gave up 14 offensive rebounds. The Pacers lost the turnover battle. They turned the ball over 17 times. Cleveland only turned it over 13 times. Each team made 11 threes, so it wasn't like, there was a great difference in the amount of points scored from beyond 3. Once again, Pacers had no business winning that game last night. How'd they do it? Because they got off to what can only be described as one of the worst starts they've gotten off to this season. They closed the first quarter. They're down 32-15. There was no energy. They didn't play with any force, as Coach Carlisle likes to say. I mean, you heard him at that, at the end of the first quarter interview, which you could tell he did not want to do at all. Jared Greenberg was like, what has to change? We have to play with more energy and force. And that was all he said. The Cavaliers and their ball pressure really took the Pacers out of their offense. And it wasn't even just the pressure on the ball. They were like grabbing and holding, not like restricting movement, but like they were touching whoever they were guarding. There was constant pressure on everybody on the floor for the Pacers, whether they had the basketball or not. And that completely took the Pacers out of their offensive rhythm. And at the end of the first quarter, it felt like the Pacers were happy to come back to Indy tied 1-1. That obviously wasn't true, not only because they won the game, but they understand that when Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and DeAndre Hunter do not play, they need to win that game. And the resiliency, the just resistance to just kind of roll over, because I think a lot of teams would have done that in that spot, is really impressive. And it is such a large part of why the Pacers are such a good team this year and why they're up 2-0 and why they're, the 4 seed. They were 10-15 to start the season, and they just stayed with it and they figured it out. And that's exactly what we saw last night. Here's Pacers head coach Rick Carlisle talking about that rough start and the resiliency to stay in it and find a way to win.
Hard to put all this into words, but Cleveland hit us with a hellacious punch early in the game. It was difficult to get the ball over half court, let alone score. We played from behind the whole game. We made a little progress in the second quarter, lost it in the third. And then, the fourth quarter, we just hung in. We've been in a lot of these situations this year and down the stretch of the season. You know, our group has a belief in one another, and you know, our thing is we just keep executing, we keep playing. Did a really good job situationally at the end, and obviously had to get lucky. But Tyrese hit another amazing shot to win the game. You don't see this very often, let alone twice in 1 week. And so we're very fortunate.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about the resiliency. He called it fortune. I don't know, man. I thought they just stayed in it and they went at it. And it all started in the second quarter. Because after you just get dogged like that in the first quarter, like you have to respond pretty quickly or else the game gets out of hand. And this is where the 10-year vet Miles Turner comes into play. Say, Miles Turner, what are you talking about? No. This guy, by the way, whole game, I thought he was good. I thought he was very consistent after that first quarter. And in the second quarter, he scored 11 of his 23 points. He hit 2 threes. He got to the foul line. He didn't rebound that well, but that's okay. But he gave the Pacers a much-needed offensive boost because there was no rhythm. The ball wasn't going in the basket. Even the open shots that the Pacers had felt rushed in that first quarter. They were 1 of 8 from 3, and I thought that they had some good looks, but it was just rushed. Everything felt rushed, not fast, if that makes sense. Fast is in control. Rushed, not in control. And Miles Turner was able to settle in and kind of get the Pacers offense moving in the right direction because no one else was scoring. I mean, at the end of the first half, Miles Turner had 15. Aaron Nesmith and Tyrese Haliburton both had 8, but no one else had scored more than 6 points. And for a lot of teams, that's okay. A lot of teams can live with one guy leading the charge and a couple of other players kind of filling in the gaps. Not the Pacers. That is not who this team is. They need all 5 guys on the floor at all times to score the basketball. The Pacers, to know that they're playing well, let's say that they, score 50 points in a half, right? If one guy has 20 and then, 7 or 8 other guys combined for the other 30, that is not good Pacers basketball. Good Pacers basketball is, they've scored 50 points in a half. One guy has 10, and then 9 other guys make up the other 40. And that is not what happened in that first half last night. So shout out to Miles Turner. He did a great job of just keeping the Pacers in this game. And then we get to the starts of the second half. In the third quarter, the Pacers just kind of hung in there. It was brutal. The Cavaliers come out, and they're trying to throw one final punch to kind of, knock the Pacers out. And it didn't happen. It didn't work because of 2 players. In that third quarter, Aaron Nesmith starts to turn it up. He starts to be Aaron Nesmith. He hits 2 threes. He's being annoying. He's getting up underneath dudes when he's guarding them. He scores 8 points. The full effort and full mentality of Aaron Nesmith is just on display in that third quarter. You see it in the fourth quarter as well, which we'll obviously talk about. But, yeah, you just kind of start to see that, just tough and physical and resilient part of Aaron Nesmith be on full display there. And then you get Benedict Mathurin. I say, Jonathan, why are you talking about Benedict Mathurin right now? What about Haliburton? We'll get there. What about Nesmith? Just wait. The Pacers do not win that game last night without Benedict Mathurin and what he did in that third quarter. He closed the third quarter in the biggest way possible. He comes in with about 5 minutes left in the quarter, and the Pacers were down by 14. In those final 5 minutes, Benedict Mathurin finds a way to score 10 points. And that was enough to keep the Cavaliers' lead at 14 because Donovan Mitchell was getting to the rim, and every time he went to the rim, he got fouled. I was so annoyed and frustrated because, if you just tap that dude, it was a foul. And Donovan Mitchell is just relentless. He's getting to the rim whenever he wants. He's getting and ones, all this kind of stuff. But Benedict Mathurin and his ability to just kind of go on these 5-minute stretches where he scores a bunch of points kept the Pacers in it. And that little stretch could not have come at a better time for Indiana. And then we get to the fourth quarter, where Coach Carlisle only plays 6 guys. Mathurin and his 5 starters, and Mathurin didn't really even play all that much. And this is where you get just the absolute best version of Aaron Nesmith, and you get Tyrese Haliburton doing the thing that we have been begging him to do for the last couple years on the Real Jonathan Smith Show, and that is take over the game, scoring the basketball. Here is Coach Carlisle talking about Aaron Nesmith and the plays that he made down the stretch and Tyrese Haliburton's impact.
Nesmith made some amazing plays down the stretch, loose ball plays. The tip dunk on the missed free throw was obviously, without that, we got no chance. Tyrese, he came through again. And so we're very fortunate.
I really wish Coach Carlisle had just been like, overrate that at the end of that sentence. That would have been amazing, but he's not going to do that because he's a very classy guy. I'm going to go out on a limb, though, and say Tyrese Haliburton isn't overrated. In fact, Tyrese Haliburton has proven this season that he's actually one of the clutchest players in the NBA. Tyrese Haliburton is now 10 of 11 on shots to tie or take the lead in the last 2 minutes of a game this year. That clutch gene that he possesses, clearly, it's on full display in these playoffs. He has now stolen 2 of the most improbable wins we've ever seen in the playoffs. And he's done it not through his passing, but through his ability to score the basketball. He scored 11 points in that fourth quarter. And this is what I have been asking him going back to last season and throughout the entire regular season. This guy is an elite one-on-one scorer. He just doesn't look to score enough. And the best players in the NBA have this sense of when to take games over. I don't think Tyrese Haliburton had fully developed that last year. I think we saw it in some of those, round 1 series against the Bucks. We saw it a little bit against the Knicks as well in those series last year. So far through the playoffs this year, though, he's had it. He took over games against the Bucks. He took over the fourth quarter last night, not just with his scoring, 11 points, obviously. He also had 5 rebounds, which, I'm sitting there, I'm watching the game. I'm like, it's about time the Pacers started rebounding. They got killed on the glass in those first 3 quarters. He had 1 assist as well. That's a nice stat line for a quarter, 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. And then you throw in the fact that he hit a tough game winner after perfectly executing a missed free throw and grabbing the offensive rebound off that missed free throw. And so now it becomes a legendary performance. He was amazing. But we do not get to that point last night without Aaron Nesmith. The energy, the defense, and the competitiveness, and just this sheer will to win, which is so cheesy, and I hate when people say that. But that's just what it was last night. All of that from Aaron Nesmith is what allowed for Tyrese Haliburton to have that moment. Andrew Nembhard picked up 5 fouls. They make the switch. They start putting Aaron Nesmith on Donovan Mitchell. He starts pressing him full court. He fouled him a few times, but, I think that set a real tone. It picked up the pace a little bit. It sped the game up. And so he starts doing that. He obviously has the putback dunk off the Pascal Siakam missed free throw with 47 seconds left, which sets off this chain reaction that results in an Indiana Pacers win. So he dunks that home, cuts the lead to 5. 2 seconds later, or two game seconds later, he forces the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell. Still can't believe that wasn't a flagrant. Usually anytime anyone gets hit in the face, it is immediately a flagrant foul. It just, goes to show how terrible the officiating was for the Pacers last night. But it doesn't matter because they won. He forces the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell right after that. Okay, that obviously gets the Pacers the ball back. He played outstanding defense, denying the ball on that Max Strus inbound turnover where he, just kind of throws the ball in the air, and Andrew Nembhard's like, oh, thanks. You threw that right to me. Aaron Nesmith was awesome that whole game. He had 5 of his 8 threes. He was really the only guy for the Pacers who consistently made threes on the night. He had 3 blocks. He had 4 offensive rebounds. Those 3 numbers perfectly describe who Aaron Nesmith is. He is a knockdown 3-point shooter. He is just this effort defender, blocking shots. He's very athletic. And then the 4 offensive rebounds speaks to just how hard that dude plays. And he brings an edge to this team that no one else does. Tyrese Haliburton was asked about Aaron Nesmith a couple weeks ago and just the kind of player that he is. And I'm going to play that audio for you because it perfectly describes what we saw from Aaron Nesmith last night.
Yeah, I mean, that's who Double A is. I think what he brings doesn't always show up on the score sheet, but some people would say like they're willing to die for this. Double A is willing to die for this. He gives it his all every night, and I think every team in the NBA wants a guy like Aaron Nesmith. Every team who wins big and ultimately wins it all always has a guy like Aaron Nesmith. So love having a guy like that in our group who will give it all for us. And he was really big for us tonight, and as he has been since he's come back from injury earlier this season, and he'll continue to be the rest of the year.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about Aaron Nesmith and how you don't see everything that he brings to this team on the stat sheet all the time. And he talks about how like this guy is willing to die for this. Like that's who this guy is. And we saw it last night on full display, playing hard, just doing like Haliburton said, things that don't show up in the box score that impact the game. And of course, Tyrese Haliburton figures it out late, but that comeback does not happen without Aaron Nesmith. It also doesn't happen without the Cavaliers making some pretty terrible mistakes. In the final 57 seconds, the Cleveland Cavaliers allowed 3 offensive rebounds, committed an offensive foul, and turned the ball over on an inbounds because they didn't have any timeouts left. It's a lot of mistakes to make in 57 seconds. It's 5. 5 mistakes in 57 seconds is what allowed for the Pacers to win that game. And the Pacers capitalized on every single mistake that Cleveland made. Here is Jared Allen after the game talking about the loss and how the Pacers just found a way to execute down the stretch.
It's just, damn, it's just one of those. He hit a tough shot. They came back. They did everything that they were supposed to come back on. It's definitely frustrating. We were up by 20. We felt like we were doing everything right to win this game, and just a couple moments led to our downfall.
Just a couple moments. 5, as a matter of fact, Jared Allen, starting center for the Cleveland Cavaliers. Once again, 3 offensive rebounds, an offensive foul, and the Cavaliers turn the ball over. All that happens within the final 57 seconds, and the Pacers capitalized on every mistake that was made. The Pacers scored after every offensive rebound that they grabbed in those final 57 seconds. Obviously, the Tyrese Haliburton game winner being the biggest of all of them. Also, I know that Tyrese Haliburton grabbed that offensive rebound that set up his game winner, but shout out Miles Turner for getting in there and being big and just keeping the ball alive and allowing Haliburton to jump up over everyone and pull it down. The Pacers cut the lead to 3 after the Donovan Mitchell offensive foul. That was the Pascal Siakam layup. That was like the only good thing that he did all night last night. He was almost non-existent offensively outside of that. Off the Max Strus inbound turnover, Tyrese Haliburton gets fouled, and that sets up the eventual game winner after the beautifully missed free throw. And I think the coolest part about these final 57 seconds is that every one of the Indiana Pacers starters had to do something in the final 57 seconds for this comeback to happen. Like if any one of these plays that I'm about to list off doesn't happen, the Pacers do not win that game. Aaron Nesmith has the putback dunk, and then he draws the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell. Pascal Siakam makes the layup to cut the lead down to 3. Andrew Nembhard makes the steal off the bad Max Strus inbound pass. Miles Turner tips up the missed free throw from Tyrese Haliburton to allow the offensive rebound to happen. And then obviously Tyrese Haliburton brings it home with a beautiful, beautiful game-winning 3. They needed all 5 to get it done. And that perfectly encapsulates who this Indiana Pacers team is. Tyrese Haliburton is great. He's one of the 12 best players in the world. But this Pacers team is not about Tyrese Haliburton. He is the head of the snake. But this Pacers team is about everyone. Their offense is about the team and how they move without the ball and how they share the ball and how they cut for one another and how they screen for one another. Their defense, let's just be honest, outside of Aaron Nesmith, TJ McConnell, and Andrew Nimhard, they don't have very many great defenders. But you know what they do, as well as any other team in the NBA? They rotate and they play great help defense. They do it as well as anyone else. When they lock in, like they did in that second half, like they did in that fourth quarter when they only gave up 21 points, it's because of the help defense that they run for one another. This is a team in every sense of the word. What we saw in those final 57 seconds fully showed that. Aaron Nesmith makes not one but two hustle/grit plays. Andrew Nimhard makes a defensive play. Pascal Siakam finishes at the rim. Miles Turner, not a great rebounder, but game one, he had a couple big rebounds late to close possessions. And last night, he gets the tip that sets up the Haliburton offensive rebound. And then you get Tyrese Haliburton being just the dude, hitting a tough step back three over Ty Jerome, who's not a bad defender. Also, Pacer fans love to call out Coach Carlisle for not calling timeouts. Aren't you glad he didn't call a timeout last night? Playing within the flow, playing amidst the chaos is something that the Pacers are really good at doing. And I am so glad that Coach Carlisle did not call a timeout last night to allow Cleveland to set their defense, because it would have made the shot for Tyrese Haliburton so much tougher. So good job to Coach Carlisle for not calling a timeout. Tyrese Haliburton has handled everything over the past month incredibly well, from being voted the most overrated player in the NBA to the whole thing with his dad last week. And he was asked about, his team and his game winner last night, and he just continues to be incredibly impressive. This is a guy that you want to be the face of your franchise. Here he is talking about the game winner and then talking about the team and just how resilient they are.
I'm at peace. I'm at peace with my game. Understanding that I'm trusted in these moments. I have all the confidence in the world to make these shots. My teammates and my coach staff give me that confidence, and just trying to make plays out there. It's the NBA. Crazier things have happened. It's just what basketball is, and especially the end of our season has looked a lot like this. We've had many games where you could take a screenshot at any moment and be like, how did they win this game? But we just have a resilient group, man. We just figure out ways to win. We don't give up, and we're battle tested. We've, as a group, we've basically been together for about 2 years now. And that continuity has been really good for us. We've had to figure out so many different ways to win. When some guys got it going, when some guys don't got it going, we just find a way. And today that was what it was all about.
Pacers, man, they just find a way. Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about hitting that game winner, how he's at peace with his game. And you can tell that he is very much at peace with his game. And this Pacers team knows exactly who they are. And those two things are incredibly important, because that's what allows you to bounce back from a dreadful first quarter. And as great as that fourth quarter was, I got to talk about everything. So we're going to talk about that first quarter and how inexcusable it was from the Pacers when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you had a fun night last night. Hopefully you didn't turn that Pacers game off because it was nothing short of incredible. I won't lie to you. At the end of that first quarter, I wanted to. I really did. Because it was just ugly. It was terrible on the Pacers' part. Like that first quarter couldn't have gone any worse. Pacers are down 32-15 at the end of the first quarter. They turned the ball over 9 times. They were 5 of 16 from the field, 1 of 8 from 3. And it was actually really impressive. Just the Pacers' ability to be like, you know what? What if we just stopped missing shots? What if we just actually started closing out to three-point shooters? And what if we just stopped turning the ball over? Maybe that'll change things for us. Because everything that the Pacers did horribly in that first quarter, the second, third, and fourth, they just stopped doing. 9 of the Pacers' 17 turnovers came in the first quarter. They just stopped turning the ball over. And it helps when you have Tyrese Haliburton, who, amidst all that chaos, turned the ball over 0 times. Adrian Nimhard, maybe don't turn it over 8 times, okay? I get it. Tough game, physical game, but let's go. Let's be better there. First quarter, Pacers were terrible at closing out to shooters. The Cavaliers were 4 of 8 from 3 in that first quarter. Sam Merrill was 3 of 3. Max Strus, 1 of 2. And the Pacers, who defended the three-point line really well, actually, in game 1, they just lost track of the Cleveland Cavaliers' 2 best three-point shooters. You can't do that and expect to beat Cleveland, because when you do, you get quarters like what we saw in that first quarter. But they cleaned that up going forward. The Cavaliers were 7 of 31 from 3 in the second, third, and fourth quarter. That's only 23%. And while the Cavaliers went from super hot to start the game to really cold, the Pacers went from cold to good. The Pacers started making shots, and I just kind of figured, I'm sure you did as well, that the Cavaliers were going to come out and throw just a heck of a punch to open. And they did. The Pacers, though, kind of settled in offensively in that second quarter, in large part due to Miles Turner, who scored 11 points, started making some shots. I felt like they missed a lot of open shots in that first quarter, even though they didn't feel open because of just the way that the Cavaliers' defense was swarming. But second, third, and fourth quarter, they settled in, and I kind of figured that they would because they're a good offensive team. The question was, could they get stops? And, thankfully, they started closing out to Max Strus and Sam Merrill better after that first quarter, and it allowed them to do that. But after missing a lot of open shots in that first quarter, the Pacers started making shots. 1 of 8 from 3 in the first quarter. They were 10 of 20 on threes. That's 50% for you math majors out there in those final 3 quarters. You can overcome a bad start when you shoot the ball that well in the second, third, and fourth quarters. I think the adjustments and the improved play is a testament not only to the Pacers and how hard this team plays. I think it's also a testament to Rick Carlisle. He's going to get glossed over in all of this, but he also helped keep this team in it. He switched Nesmith on to Donovan Mitchell in part because Andrew Nimhard, had 5 fouls. But he's the one who didn't call a timeout at the end of the fourth quarter. He's the one who told them to press in the fourth quarter. He did a great job of helping because players have to, pull in the same direction as well, of helping this Pacers team turn it around after a terrible opening quarter. So tip of the cap to Rick Carlisle, who I love. That is no secret. I grew up a Dallas Mavericks fan. Rick Carlisle will probably be my favorite coach in the history of the NBA just because of how much I've watched his teams play. And I just, after watching him for the last 20 years, I think I have a pretty great understanding of how great of a coach that guy is. He's one of the most underrated offensive basketball minds in the history of the NBA. And I love Carlisle. He's a no-nonsense guy. He doesn't make excuses. He doesn't really complain about foul calls. You had the incident last year in the presser where he purposefully took the fine after I think it was game 2 against the New York Knicks. Aside from that, though, normal dude. Coach Atkinson, a guy who I thought that I liked, needs to just stop complaining. It is becoming really annoying. Here is Cavaliers head coach Kenny Atkinson complaining after game 2.
We outplayed them for most of the game. We ran out of gas. We couldn't really separate ourselves. We couldn't get open in the half court. They're grabbing us, holding us. Couldn't really move. We couldn't get to separation. Every possession they just upped their physicality. Again, grabbing, holding. We couldn't move. We ran out of gas. My only regret, Dan, is not playing more guys. We shortened the rotation. Obviously, that could have been. That's my sole regret. But I loved how we competed. We played our basketball, our identity. Tough one.
Coach Atkinson right there. And, somebody said in that clip is correct. They did outplay the Pacers last night for most of the game. But the whole we couldn't get open late because they were grabbing us and they were holding us. And did you watch the first quarter? That was some of the most physical off-ball defense you will see from Cleveland. Like, you want to talk about grabbing and holding and, no fouls being called? Cleveland in the first quarter. And on top of it, to complain about officiating when in game 1, I thought that the Cavaliers got a better whistle than the Pacers did. And then last night, your superstar took 21 free throws. He took 21 free throws all by himself. The Pacers, as a team who went to the rim more than Cleveland did, only took 29. The Pacers, as a team, only took 8 more free throws than Donovan Mitchell did by himself. The Cavaliers made more free throws than the Pacers attempted. And then to sit up there after your team blew it, not because fouls weren't called off the ball, but because they gave up 3 offensive rebounds. Donovan Mitchell, committed a bad foul, and Max Strus turned the ball over because you didn't keep a timeout in your back pocket. It's sorry, and it's soft. That's really what it is. And I can't stand it, man. Seriously. Coach Atkinson, stop complaining. Okay? Your team messed up. No way around it. Suck it up. Move on to the next game. Quit complaining about officiating. That's what you did after game 1 as well. And I get it. It's, part of being a head coach. You're supposed to complain about officials. And look, to his credit, it worked, right? He complained about officials after game 1, sent plays into the league, said that, the Pacers stepped over the line in terms of physicality, but it wasn't dirty and, all that bull crap. And it worked. His superstar got to shoot 21 free throws in game 2. Okay? Honestly, if your team just closes it out and they don't commit a bad turnover and they don't give up 3 offensive rebounds, then you probably win the game. So maybe don't complain about officiating. You were up by 20. Once again, you made more free throws than the Pacers attempted. Quit complaining about officiating. It is just nauseatingly annoying. Jeez, man. Jeez. But it doesn't matter. Pacers won. I am very hopeful and honestly quite expectant of the Pacers to get a much better whistle on Friday night because games 1 and 2 have definitely favored Cleveland. And, because the Pacers have won, it hasn't really been discussed all that much. But the officiating in these first 2 games in Cleveland have not been good. No way around it. Okay? And that is something that I'll probably talk about with Tony East coming up here in about 20 minutes. He's going to join the show, and we're going to talk about the Pacers and just an incredible game last night. Tyrese Haliburton obviously hitting another game winner, figuring it out down the stretch. Once again, Tony East of Locked On Pacers coming up here in about 20 minutes. It's going to be good. Can't wait to have him on. But when we come back here in about 4 minutes, I'm going to take a couple minutes to talk about the Colts because rookie minicamp starts soon. And I've just got a short message to all the Colts fans out there who care about rookie minicamp.
Are you a chronic interrupter? Incapable of letting other people talk? Do those people ask, how do you sleep at night? Then you should go to Mattress Firm. They have a 120-night sleep trial so you can get your money back if a bed's not right. That way anyone, even someone like you, can sleep. Get matched at Mattress Firm. Sleep at night. Restrictions apply. See store or website for details.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
If it's in today's sports world, it's here. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. What a game last night from this Pacers team. I mean, you can't say enough about it. You really can't. Once again, 6 players finished the night in double figures. They didn't really need Pascal Siakam to be great. They didn't need Andrew Nembhard to be great. It was all about Aaron Nesmith, Miles Turner, and of course, Tyrese Haliburton, who the more I think about the game, the more I like Tyrese Haliburton. I mean, seriously, I just, his ability to not only like create shots and to score, but like he's a good rebounder. He led the Pacers in rebounding last night with 9. And like we just continue to see him take these steps toward being like a truly great player, because the best players impact the game in multiple ways. And obviously, Haliburton does that with his passing and with his scoring, but we're starting to see him, rebound really well for a guard. We're starting to see him, play better defense. And, he had that big block on Ty Jerome where Max Strus knocks him into the Cavaliers bench. And instead of laying on the floor and complaining about, no foul call like Kenny Atkinson would do, he gets up and he blocks a shot from behind. And then he throws just this incredible pass over the top to Benedict Mathurin, who lays it in. Okay, like this dude he just continues to find ways to impact the game. And what's really impressive from the Pacers is I don't feel like they've played a good game yet. Game 1, yes, they played well, but it didn't feel like they played their best. And part of that is because Cleveland's really good. Game 2, they definitely didn't play their best. Pascal Siakam, I'm a little disappointed in. Game 1, he was okay. Wasn't super efficient shooting the ball, but it felt like he got good looks. Last night, though, he kind of felt non-existent. 12 points. Only took 8 shots. Was 5 of 8 on those shots. He missed 3 free throws. He only grabbed 6 rebounds. Committed 4 fouls. Like I was expecting more from him last night because the Cavaliers don't have anyone who can guard him when there's no Evan Mobley and there's no DeAndre Hunter. Now, with that being said, Dean Wade, good defender. I saw people complaining about this on Twitter last night. Why isn't Pascal Siakam just going at Dean Wade? Well, the answer is because Dean Wade's a really good defender. That's the answer. I know Dean Wade's white, and we all just want to pick on the white guy like Haliburton did to Ty Jerome there at the end, but Dean Wade, really good defender. With that being said, Pascal Siakam only taking 8 shots. Pascal Siakam just kind of floating through the game. That is something that's not going to be able, that can't continue to happen if the Pacers want to win this series. And I get it. They're up 2-0. They've won 2 games on the road. It's great. It's fun. It's awesome. But Cavaliers are really good. And I'm still waiting on them to get healthy because they're a good enough team that when fully healthy, like if DeAndre Hunter comes back and if Evan Mobley comes back and if Darius Garland comes back, like those 3 guys make the Cavaliers significantly better. And game 3 is going to be really tough. It just is. Obviously, because they're up 2-0. They're going to get another really tough punch from the Cavaliers. And I can't wait. The game is here. Friday night is going to be outstanding. Here is the Cavaliers superstar, and he played like one last night, Donovan Mitchell, talking about the loss and how the rest of that locker room is ready for game 3.
Proud of every individual that put up a fight tonight. We've shown how deep we are as a team, how great we are as a unit. But yeah, it's tough losing like that. But we got to find a way to get to an Indy. I mean, we can sit here and dwell on this and be home in about 4 or 5 days, or we can move on and take some things that we did really well and go from there. I have no doubt everybody in that locker room is ready for Friday. It sucks, stings, but we got to go out there and take care of business. Otherwise, that's it. But I believe in everybody in that locker room. We believe in each other. We'll figure it out. Watch the film and be better and get ready for Friday. I mean, obviously, yeah. Everybody can say, yeah, we had DG, Ev, and Dre out. I'm not going to go there. You know what I'm saying? I think for us, If they play Friday, great. We definitely use them. But if they don't, we got to be ready. Understand that we've shown we can do this. Like, this is it's a tough loss, but understanding that we're also up 20 whatever. So look at it, figure out, make the adjustments, and then go in on Friday and handle business.
Donovan Mitchell right there. I like him. He was, talking about the loss, and I don't really care for the whole telling the crowd not to chant overrated at Tyrese Haliburton. Like, some people are going to eat that up. I don't care. Having guys chant overrated at you is just part of being in the NBA. It's part of it. But I think he's exactly right in what he said. They proved last night, like, they're more than capable of winning these games. They are. Seriously. I mean, and I also appreciate how he didn't bring up the injuries. Because he's exactly right. Like, I'm sure there's plenty of Cleveland fans that are like, if they'd had DeAndre Hunter and Darius Garland and Evan Mobley, then they win that game easily. I mean, they were up by 20 at one point. By the way, a 20-point lead in the NBA has never meant less. Seriously, because you're a 3 a stop and a 3 away from the lead only being 14, and 14's nothing. In the last 2 days, we've seen a couple crazy 20-point comebacks. The Knicks did it against Boston, and the Pacers did it against Cleveland, and they both happened the exact same way. The Celtics quit making threes, and the Cavaliers quit making threes. Meanwhile, the Knicks got hot, and the Pacers got hot. 20-point lead is nothing, okay? But anyway, back to Donovan Mitchell, who was nothing short of outstanding last night. Like, I like that dude. Like, no excuses, bearing down, getting to work, and like, let's go. I greatly appreciate that, because I think that there are a lot of people who would have sat in that chair and talked about how, they didn't have their guys. And, that is a very easy press conference to not represent yourself or your team very well in. I appreciate that he's on to the next, because he was awesome. The Cavaliers were plus 13 in the 36 minutes that he played. I played a clip from Coach Atkinson earlier where he talks about how he wished he had played more guys. He played 9 dudes. Craig Porter Jr. could have played more, but it's not like, he only played 7. No, he played 9. And in addition to that, it's like, what are you going to do? You really going to run Tristan Thompson out there? Come on now. There was no option to play more guys. What I think he should have done was shrunk that rotation more. The fact that Donovan Mitchell only played 36 minutes is surprising, because they were so dominant when he was on the floor. And yes, the Pacers are up 2-0, but one thing that they've also shown is they have no answer for Donovan Mitchell. Andrew Nembhard's not defending him very well. Nesmith was better, but not great. They don't have an answer for that guy. And that is concerning, because that's a dude who can go get 48, and if Evan Mobley plays and Donovan Mitchell gets 48, then the Cavaliers are probably going to win. So the other part of this too is he's not shooting the ball very well from 3. Like, he's 1 of 7 from he was 1 of 7 from 3 in game 2. He was 1 of 11 from 3 in game 1. He's 2 for his last 18 from 3. That's not going to continue. Like, he's due for a game where he blows up and he hits like 5 of 8 threes, like Aaron Nesmith did last night. Like, he's due for that now. And hopefully it doesn't come in game 3 or game 4. That's my hope. Hopefully it comes game 1 of next season. Because that dude is very problematic, and I appreciate the way that he took ownership of the loss. And yeah, my respect for that guy has really, really grown over the course of this series, because he's a baller and he doesn't make excuses. He doesn't. And that is a really important thing to have in your leader. So I fully expect for Cleveland to be revved up and ready to go in that final game, or in that game on Friday. I also expect for the Pacers to be locked in, because they're back at home. I think it's easier to be engaged when you're playing in front of your home fans. And I love what Miles Turner had to say after the game. Here he is talking about just this season of basketball.
Man, this is the most fun I've had playing basketball ever. bro. Honestly, like this is this group is special. I don't want to stop playing anytime soon. So, we're just gonna continue to keep getting better and better, drowning out the noise. It's easy to feel good for ourselves and be happy and whatnot and butter ourselves up. We already know the media's gonna start talking about us now. Like, everybody's been doubting us, but all of a sudden it's like, oh, Pacers this. So like, we drown out that noise. We continue to work, keep our heads down, and take these 2 days to get ourselves right. And I believe it's Friday, ready to go at it.
Miles Turner right there talking about just how much fun he's having right now. Yeah, you should be having a lot of fun. Winning is fun. Winning is so much fun. Okay, and it's a really hard thing to do. Winning is so incredibly difficult, especially at this level when everybody is just balls to the wall all the time, and you're down by 20 at one point, and you find a way to win. The Pacers are now 6-1 in the playoffs so far this season. 4-1 against the Bucks, 2-0 against the number 1 seeded Cleveland Cavaliers. This should be fun. This should be an absolute blast. And that there are like retired NBA guys that are going to talk about the Pacers, and they're going to be jealous because like they understand how much of a blast this has to be. Winning close games, toughing it out, coming out on top and being like, you didn't think we were going to win that game. And it's just incredibly impressive what we've seen from this Pacers team. And I'm a Miles. I hope this doesn't stop anytime soon. I'm having a blast watching this team. And I think that you can see the experience that they picked up from last year's playoff run, especially with Haliburton. And like that is paying off in this playoffs. They are a blast to watch. I hope they win Friday. I hope they win Sunday. We sweep and we get ready for Boston/New York. When we come back at 11, Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He was there. He was in the building covering the game last night. Can't wait to have him on to discuss a crazy game too, and a Pacers team that might be going back to the Eastern Conference Finals. Tony East of Locked On Pacers when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
do this. It's the Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indie Sports Ticket, 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indie Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indies Sports Ticket. Hopefully you've had a nice week. Hopefully you got to watch the Indiana Pacers Game 2 last night. Joined now by Tony East of Locked On Pacers. He was there. He was in the building. He got to witness another improbable comeback from the Pacers. Tony, what's going on, man? How are you?
Great. Historic groans. This is probably the least I've slept on a road trip I've ever gone on in my life. So hanging in there.
Did you just go on a bender last night after the win? What happened?
No, I recorded a billion podcasts and was probably the last person in that arena. So just a lot of yapping.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
No, I mean, hey, there's a lot to yap about.
Yeah.
Obviously, Haliburton late is going to be the big story, but the Pacers don't get there without a lot of things going right. Who on the Pacers did you think was the biggest unsung hero from last night?
It's always Aaron Nesmith, isn't it? Out of 704. He just the way he gets some of these loose balls, draws fouls, flies in for a rebound on a missed free throw out of nowhere. I mean, I tweeted last night, everybody jokes about the Worldwide Wild thing where he says, oh, it's always Haliburton, and it is, right? Tyrese hit the shot in the end anyway. But, I mean, Aaron Nesmith made a trillion hustle plays, and that's what he's done in these situations time and time again. Against the Bucks last week when they had the crazy comeback, he puts his face on the line against Donovan Mitchell. Over and over again, they need somebody to help them get a turnover to get the ball back. You don't come back down 7 just by scoring. You need the other team to vomit all over themselves. And Aaron Nesmith forced the Cavs to vomit all over themselves by flying in for a rebound and getting in Donovan Mitchell's face. It's just what he does, man. He's been so good this whole playoffs, and in these clutch moments, he keeps showing it.
Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking about the Pacers' crazy Game 2 win from last night. And to your point about Aaron Nesmith, I go back to what Tyrese Haliburton said 2 weeks ago, where he goes, Double A will die for this. And you watched the game last night, and it's that is exactly what Haliburton is talking about. He was obviously big the whole game. He was the only guy for the Pacers who really shot the ball well. I thought Mathurin in the final 5 minutes of the third quarter, it wasn't great because he committed some fouls, and I think he got teed up for a delay game, but he scored 10 points in the final 5 minutes, and that really kind of kept the Pacers in it. He finished with 19. What'd you make of his performance last night?
Yeah, the delay of game was dumb, and he had a stupid couple of plays on defense where he wasn't completely locked in, and everything else he did was just sensational, right? His best playoff game to date, I think. I don't really think it's close. Maybe I'm missing something from one of the Bucks games, but to have that kind of scoring impact, and a lot of people were questioning what Carlisle was doing there. He went full bench to close the third quarter, and by a lot of people, I also mean me. No Siakam and no Haliburton on the floor is never something that they really like to go to in those kind of moments. But, they needed to summon something to keep up in that stretch. And Mitchell was on the floor for a lot of it. Mathurin's 10 points in that stretch came in a minute and a half or something crazy. And then he came in the fourth quarter. They kept him in with the starters because he was playing so well. During that time on the floor, too, it was a lot of good decision-making, quick cutting, finishing at the basket, making shots in a way that he hasn't yet in the playoffs. And so they can get over some warts when that's happening. And, it's a slower game than normal for them. And usually in those kind of games, either him or Siakam has to step up to get the Pacers out of whatever funk they're in. And it was Mathurin last night. It was really great of Carlisle to stick with him. And we can all bellyache over the full bench group to close the third. But it gave the starters enough juice to play the entire fourth quarter and do that. So it did work. And it wouldn't have been possible if Mathurin didn't shine for 10 straight minutes of play.
I thought Carlisle last night was awesome. Like you said, the full bench to close the third was, like you said, it gave the Pacers starters just enough juice to finish. It's really weird, Tony. I haven't seen anyone complain about him not calling a timeout there after that offensive rebound. He was I thought he was really good last night. And I didn't get to watch the full press conference, but what did he talk about in terms of just some of the decisions that he made, going with the starters for pretty much the whole fourth quarter and not calling a timeout?
Yeah, I also tweeted about the no timeout thing. It's just so annoying to me the way those always are just results based and never actually why he made the decision he made. And the Cavs just I think it's pretty clear the Cavs had their rebounding and free throw shooting lineup on the floor and on a defensive group, and the Pacers had their starters on the floor. Why would they want a sub, right? So they didn't call a timeout, and look at that. Tyrese Haliburton is Tyrese Haliburton. They win the game. Yeah, the bench group, he just kind of said that's what he went with. You know, he never really gives us a huge detailed explanation other than that building a rotation is hard, and that's what he felt like was the best in that moment. And yeah, it felt strange to me. They're always so intentional about having one or Siakam or Haliburton on the floor. They didn't in a key stretch of the game, and I think that had they lost, a lot of people would have pointed at that stretch as a, hey, what were you doing kind of moment. But not only did the full bench group like put a dent in the Cavs lead a little bit, they held their own and they let the starters be rested as possible for what I would assume is one final punch to open the fourth quarter. They punched really hard and they could stick with it. So he doesn't have to answer as many questions about it when it works.
That's exactly right. Joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking about the Pacers' big win last night. Speaking of, the starters, Pascal Siakam, I thought he was going to have a really good series just because he's not having to expend all this energy defending Giannis like he did in round one. But last night, he just kind of floated through. Like, he wasn't bad. Like, he was 5 of 8 from the field. I didn't really notice him. Why do you think that was?
Yeah, I felt the same way. I picked him as, which is kind of strange. You never do this with star players, but I picked him as my series X factor. He had that awesome half against the Cavs during the regular season where he scored 21 points. In the first half, they were switching, and he was just attacking these switches. And in these games, he just hasn't been able to be involved for whatever reason. Sometimes that's on him. Sometimes that's on the team. And last night, specifically, the Cavs, with all their guys out, no Mobley, they put Dean Wade in the starting five. Look, I get that Pascal Siakam is better than Dean Wade. Dean Wade's still a good defensive player. Like, they still probably shouldn't go to that matchup when there's things like Ty Jerome on Tyrese Haliburton and Donovan Mitchell on Andrew Nembhard and Jared Allen. Every time Jared Allen switches, they just go at him. So that's how you get the shot profile that they had with their starting five. Like, the Cavs don't have awesome one-on-one defenders, but in some ways he was just uninvolved. Like, the Cavs switched less last night than they did in game one. And early in the game, it really flummoxed the Pacers. They were down 20 really quick in this game, right? And credit to Cleveland for changing things up without Mobley. They had to be more creative on defense. And had this game ended as a loss for the Pacers, that would have been a big talking point, is how do they figure that out? Because they started off so poorly. I think he had 2 shot attempts at halftime, and I was tracking for a while that this was going to be the fewest combined shot attempts game from Siakam and Haliburton of the season. It did not end up being that case, but it was very close. It was 19 last night, and 17 is their fewest combined for the season. Of course, they both got going late. They hit the final 2 shots to get over that 17 number. Pretty significant baskets. So in the end, his involvement to me is just kind of like them's the breaks kind of thing. Like, the Pacers play this free flowing, keep it moving style that works for them. And sometimes that means a guy who is a good but not great matchup just kind of gets neutralized and taken out of the game. And I think Siakam's got to be better in Indy if they want to truly close this out, because the Cavs are still really good. But he was very quiet in this one, and it's very rare they're able to win a game where he is that quiet.
It is. Once again, joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking Cavaliers Pacers last night.
If we're talking Colts, I got to hang up. I got nothing to give you.
You mean you don't have any big takes on Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson? What? No.
I saw Jarris Walker throw a QB full court pass last night. Maybe he could play QB for the Colts.
That was just the perfect Jarris Walker sequence. He takes a bad shot.
Terrible turnover, shot, insane, perfect pass.
And then it's oh yeah, there's the downside and the very, very big upside of Jarris Walker.
He played fine against the Bucks, but this has not been a good Jarris Walker series so far.
He looks so sped up. He looks like his mind is ahead of where his body is. He's not really he's not handling every time he takes a dribble, I'm nervous, which is not that was not the case with him during the regular season. Man, I had a question. I just completely forgot what it was.
No. Our Colts topic derailed it.
It did. I did want to point something out that you tweeted the other night. Maybe while we're talking about this, it'll come back to me. Your tweet on shooting variance was amazing. It's so true.
Crazy.
For those of you who don't follow Tony East, you should, at Tony R. East. He tweeted 2 nights ago. It had a good run as a talking point, but shooting variance has officially become overused and often an inaccurate way of describing games. Shooting variance last night, I thought we kind of saw the Cavaliers shot it great in that first quarter. They didn't shoot it well in the last 3 quarters, whereas the Pacers were 1 of 8 from 3 in that first quarter and 10 of 20 from that point forward. Would you call last night a shooting variance night?
No, no, I would not. I mean, the Pacers were barely even about. Like, I tweeted that after the Celtics game because, like, the Celtics didn't shoot well against the Knicks, and like they said it after the game. But like, the pass comes and hits Jason Tatum in the knees, and then he misses a three. And like, I get that it's an open shot, but like, it was an awful pass, or like that's not a good shot. It's not a routine open three. It feels like we've lost the sauce. We went so at first it was cool when everybody realized finally that jump shooting is not just like a guarantee every game. Like, that's great, that's true, but it went so fast from jump shooting is not a guarantee to like, oh, everybody just loses because they didn't shoot well. Like, it's not how it works. There's a lot that goes into all this every night. And yeah, the game, if you wanted to pick a shooting variance game for the Pacers in this series, it was game one. They generated a ton of open threes that game. I think they were 13 for 30 on wide open threes. Generating and making that many is great, but like, Andrew Nembhard hit one that was just like, oh my God, what are you supposed to do as the Cavs? Ben Mathurin hit a tough one in the corner. Miles Turner at the buzzer at the end of the third quarter. That's shooting variance. Those are tough shots, right? And the Cavs shot like their third worst percentage of the season. And that, honestly, if you're going to use the term shooting variance for this series, I think the fear should be that the Cavs catch their shooting variance going the other direction the rest of the way. They've been under 30% both games so far. They were one of the best three-point shooting teams in the league this season. Like, they haven't gotten going at all with something that was very important for them to being good this year. So yes, it drives me crazy how quickly we went from this being an interesting talking point to like, hey, that is not actually what happened at all in the basketball game that we all just watched. And the Pacers did benefit from it in the first game, no doubt. But a lot of games, I think it's just an inaccurate way of describing what happened, including the game I tweeted it after. Congrats to the Knicks.
I'm with you. It's become a box score stat of like, I didn't watch the game. Oh, they were 15 of 60 from three, shooting variance, and so it's very annoying. I remembered my question before we got derailed by the Colts.
Yeah,
I've talked about this a lot. I've seen other people mention it. The Anthony Edwards improvement from last playoffs, where he really struggled when he got doubled, to this year now he's making a lot of the right reads. I think that's a very obvious improvement that we've seen from him. And watching Haliburton, I feel like he's gotten better from last playoffs to this one. I just think it's a little bit tougher to see. I think he's just kind of gained a better sense of when to kind of take over games a little bit. We saw it in Game 5. We saw it in Game 5 against the Bucks. We saw it last night in the fourth quarter. Have you picked up on this at all?
Yeah, and in the first round, like, just to go to his quotes, he said they've played the Bucks so many times that he's seen every coverage they could throw at him, right? And that's, of course, just one team, but I think generically, think back to last season for the Pacers, if people can even remember that. Like, they had that stretch just before Christmas where Haliburton was getting blitzed after the end-season tournament, and he was really struggling against that defense. And, like, it was happening every game from these opponents, and they would struggle or lose, and he would talk about having to figure out what to do against it, right? And then, in like early March, he was seeing different coverages again that were a little goofy, and like they didn't have Buddy Hield to figure out how to deal with that kind of coverage with, the team that he had. And that was kind of a story, right? Like, it was a thing last year that for the first time as a star level player, he was seeing unique, more challenging coverages and had to figure out how to beat them. And then he does, and he's done it, right? So this year, the Cavs change up their defense from game to game. The Bucks change up their defense from half to half. And he's like, oh, okay, I've seen this before in that game or this stretch of play in a way that is so significant for the Pacers. Because, I mean, I feel like I say the same takeaway after every game, maybe not last night, but it just feels like this whole playoffs, the game is supposed to be so much harder in the playoffs. They can just get a good shot every possession. Like, it doesn't matter. It's unbelievable to me how easy it's been for the Pacers to get shots that they want or like all the time. And I think Haliburton being able to break down these defenses is just an absolutely massive part of that. And these poor opponents are trying other things or switching up who's dropping or who's switching or whatever. Last night it was, not switching Jared Allen as much early in the game, although they probably should have stuck with that for longer, or, just all sorts of stuff like that. The Pacers were like, oh, okay, that's how you're going to do it. Great. We'll just do this. And once they figured it out, they averaged 35 points a quarter the last three quarters and win the game. It's just so easy for him now that he's gone through this the last couple of years.
What have you made of Kenny Atkinson's comments on officiating through the first two games?
Yeah, he nailed it, I think. Like, he said it the right way. It's a very tough line to toe, and you're going to be like, hey, I didn't like some calls, but like without sounding too whiny. And it's the reason that it's like I'm surprised at the reaction of this from fans, although I should never be surprised by fan reactions anymore, is that his players got hurt. Like he has to do this. You know what I mean? If they didn't get hurt on these plays, I don't think he would have talked about this, even if he believed they were excessive, because now he not only is saying what he said to the league, but to media and publicly, he is also standing up for his injured players. And that's significant, right? And he's doing a good job of saying, I don't think they're being dirty. I don't think they're being physical, like over the line, but like this is right up to it. And it's now costing us players and games in a significant way. And that's a very, very challenging line to toe, but I got to give him a lot of credit. He's done a good job of it. And I get how if you're the Pacers, it's annoying. You know, I think back to last year when Rick Carlisle was doing this after game 2 against the Knicks, which was hilarious because after game 1 he said, "No, officiating, that's not the story." And then game 2 he's like,
Yeah.
we sent 40 clips to the NBA, blah blah. You know, so it's just like how it goes sometimes when things get frustrating and you need to stand up for your team. And Kenny's doing exactly that. I think the Pacers have responded very well. Tyrese Haliburton's quote about the game being more physical and him being okay with it was, you know, very pointed certainly after the game. But you know, I think he had to do it the way he did. You know, he was demonstrative. He stood up in front of us in the pregame presser and reenacted the Evan Mobley foul. Like he's very clearly trying to show us what he thinks is wrong. And then last night when he did it post game about the grabbing, I'm like, last night, like everybody was grabbing. The Pacers were upset with the grabbing in the first quarter, clearly.
That's what I said. Yeah.
That's playoff ball to me. I mean, I get the frustration when you blow a 7-point lead in 40 seconds.
Yeah.
I also saw a lot of Pacers fans upset about the fouls against Mitchell, but like I thought Donovan Mitchell was getting fouled a lot, like very clearly. So I don't know. It feels like a lot of belly aching in some cases that I'm okay with, and a lot of other cases I'm like, can we just play the games? Like, can we just go tip up?
Yeah, and I'm with you, joined by Tony East of Locked On Pacers, talking about this crazy Pacers series. Two more questions for you, and I'll let you go. Of all of the, you know, for the first time in the history of the NBA, all 4 road teams won game 1 in the second round of the playoffs, which is crazy. Which of those results, like which road team winning game 1 were you most surprised by?
Well, in retrospect, knowing that Steph got hurt, it's got to be Golden State.
That's fair.
You know, but pre-knowing about the injury part of it, I think Denver, they just had the shortest turnaround. Well, I guess Golden State was equally short, but they had a very short turnaround to game 1 against a very well-rested Thunder team that, in my head, you know, I told a lot of people before the series, I don't know who's going to win game 7 of Clippers-Nuggets, but I think the Clippers have a better chance against OKC than Denver does because of the bigs that is on OKC's roster. OKC won. They deserve to win the series. That's great. But I thought they were just going to get whacked in that first game. OKC's going to come out with a week off and prep and look awesome. And at times they did, but they lost. Denver has this heart of gold this playoffs. It's like not quite Pacers level, but rivaling it with Aaron Gordon in some of these moments. And he's been crazy. And I don't know. I think beating the Thunder in any situation is already like a monumental task. So to do it on little rest when they're very prepared was just remarkably impressive. I was stunned by that one. I can't believe this road team run right now.
I can't either. I think it's awesome. Jokic though, 42 and 22. And like you watch the game and it's like I don't even think he's playing that well. You know?
I know. I think the Nuggets said that too. It's really crazy.
It is. He's insane. Last thing for you, Tony. You watch a lot of basketball. And I do as well. I know you watched a lot of Cleveland this year. I did as well. I am still very, very concerned that the Cavaliers are going to come back and win this series. How concerned are you, and why?
Yeah, I said that last night doing a podcast. The Pacers are up 2-0. I'm like, this is not over. Like, not only did the Pacers come back from down 2-0 or 0-2 last year, like they have shown that this is possible to do. The Cavs have shown that Mitchell can get going in this series. Have not gotten any good shooting from anyone not named Max Strus yet. Like Sam Merrill could get going. Ty Jerome was terrible last night. He could get going. You know, Dean Wade could be better on the offensive end. Like a lot of guys, right? Maybe Garland will return. Maybe Mobley will come back. And Mobley playing in a game where the Pacers don't shoot 50% from 3, it will become very apparent very quickly how good he is on the defensive end. Like they won 15-plus games in a row twice this year. Like they're really, really good when they're on. They had the best offensive rating in the league. So if they find it, if they just click, like the Pacers are just going to be like, oh, crap, you know, we got to figure out how to stop them or we're going to lose the series. Like it is decidedly not over yet. It does help that the Pacers have 3 at home. They only have to win 2 of them. It does help that the Cavs are banged up and the Pacers are not, although we'll see what Haliburton's injury prognosis is with this left wrist going forward. But yeah, this is like as hard as the Pacers have 5 games left and 3 at home, and they have to win twice. And that's and they still have like a challenging situation in front of them because the Cavs are that good.
They really are. And I'm with you entirely. Like, this is the best offensive team in the NBA. Like, also Donovan Mitchell's not going to, continue being 2 of 18 from 3. Like, cause that's what he is through these first 2 games. He's going to get it rolling at some point. Tony, I think my favorite stat from this Pacers and Cavaliers stuff this season is 4 of the Cavaliers' 9 home losses this year have come to the Pacers, which is kind of crazy. I think it's great though. I'm here for it. Tony, thanks for your time, man. As always, drive safe. I know you're about to head back to Indy, so
I'm glad we found a way.
Me too. We've been trying. I know you're busy with the fever as well, so thanks for finding time, man.
You got it, man. Take care.
See ya. That is Tony East. Go check him out on Twitter at Tony R East. He does an excellent job covering not only the Indiana Pacers, but also the Indiana Fever. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, we'll keep talking Pacers. That just incredible comeback last night. The unsung heroes of the comeback will be named when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
it may, one day, be a must for sports enthusiasts.
Yeah, and monkeys might fly out of my butt. Uh-oh.
The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Thanks for tuning in, no matter how you're tuning in, whether that's YouTube, Indy Sports Ticket. If you want to head over there and subscribe, hop in the chat, be part of the conversation. Maybe you're listening on Twitter, _ Jonathan Smith, if you want to follow me there, or maybe you're listening via that Indy Sports Ticket app, which you can download wherever you find your apps. And as always, if you want a little bit more from me, you can go check out the My Take Is YouTube page. So, Pacers, big-time win last night. Another improbable comeback in the last week. And just incredible. They're now up 2-0. No, can't relax because this Cavaliers team is awesome. And they're now 2-0 this year in playoff games when they trail by 7 points with a minute and a half or less left. Every other team in that situation in the last 20 years was 1 in 384. Those teams are now 3 in 384, thanks to the Indiana Pacers, who have now done it twice here in the last week, right? They trailed by 7 with 35 seconds left to go against the Bucks, and they won. They trailed by 7 with 48 seconds left last night, and they won. And it just speaks to who this team is. They are tough and resilient, and they just never quit. And part of that is because Tyrese Haliburton is an exceptional leader. I think he does a great job of staying in it and getting the guys to follow him in that. I think Aaron Nesmith does an excellent job of setting the tone and making sure that happens. Because the Pacers had no business winning that game last night. Donovan Mitchell went crazy, 48 points and 9 assists. Max Strus and Sam Merrill both shot the ball well from 3. Jared Allen scored 22 points. The Cavaliers took 5 more shots than the Pacers did. They took more free throws than the Pacers did. In fact, they made more free throws than the Pacers attempted. The Pacers gave up 14 offensive rebounds to Cleveland. The Pacers lost the turnover battle. They turned it over 17 times. The Cavaliers only turned it over 13 times. It wasn't like the Pacers had some crazy three-point shooting night because each team only made 11 threes. Once again, the Pacers had no business winning that game. How'd they do it? They got off to that horrific start. You know, they ended the first quarter down 32-15. There was no energy. All right, the Cavaliers' ball pressure really took the Pacers, out of the flow of their offense. And it just kind of felt like they were content coming back to Indy, tied 1-1. Like, that obviously wasn't true because they not only won the game, but they know and understand that they need to win the games that Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, and DeAndre Hunter don't play in. So the night just gets off to this terrible start. Here is Rick Carlisle talking about the rough start and how they bounce back from it.
Hard to put all this into words, but Cleveland hit us with a hellacious punch early in the game. It was difficult to get the ball over half court, let alone score. We played from behind the whole game. We made a little progress in the second quarter. Lost it in the third, and then the fourth quarter we just hung in. We've been in a lot of these situations this year and down the stretch of the season. You know, our group has a belief in one another, and our thing is we just keep executing, we keep playing. Did a really good job situationally at the end, and obviously had to get lucky. But Tyrese hit another amazing shot to win the game. You don't see this very often, let alone twice in 1 week. And so we're very fortunate.
Rick Carlisle right there talking about that resilient comeback. And it all started in the second quarter because, as you said, that first quarter was just pitiful. No offensive rhythm. They're not getting stops. Donovan Mitchell's getting whatever he wants. And then the second quarter starts and Miles Turner shows up. Miles Turner led the charge in that second quarter. Yeah, he was great from start to finish, by the way. But he scored 11 of his 23 points in that second quarter, where he hits 2 threes. He gets to the foul line where he makes 3 of 4. He didn't rebound very well, but that's okay. He gave them a much needed offensive boost because just no one else was scoring. And the Pacers were at their best when everyone is scoring the basketball, obviously. But for them, I think that's more important than anyone else. At the end of the first half, Miles Turner had 15. Aaron Nesmith and Tyrese Haliburton both had 8. No one else had more than 6. This is a Pacers team that relies on everybody. And only 3 guys really made shots in that first half. Miles Turner, Aaron Nesmith, and Tyrese Haliburton. And, the Pacers, if you want to know whether or not they're playing well, you have to ask how they scored. So, for example, let's say that the Pacers have 50 points at halftime. If Tyrese Haliburton has 30, and, the 8 other guys that played combined for the other 20, that's not good. That is not a normal Pacers game where it feels like everyone is involved and everyone's scoring and everyone's pulling in the same direction. Obviously, it'd be great if Haliburton had 30 and a half, but you get my point. A normal Pacers game where you feel like everyone is playing well is when they have 50 points at halftime and no one has more than 10. No individual has scored more than 10 points. It's 9 guys have all contributed very evenly to the scoring. That is when you know that the Pacers are playing the style of basketball that they want to play. They didn't do that in the first half, and thankfully, Miles Turner had a big second quarter and allowed them to stay in that game and trim down that lead a little bit. Then we get to the start of the second half. 2 players stick out for the Pacers in that third quarter. Aaron Nesmith starts to turn it up, scores 8 points, hits 2 threes. Bennedict Mathurin, though, that's the guy in the third quarter who was huge for the Pacers. So he comes in with about 5 minutes left. He's the only scorer on the floor. There's no Haliburton and there's no Siakam. Pacers are down 14. And he just keeps them in it. He scored 10 points in those final 5 minutes. And that was good enough to keep the Cavaliers lead at 14. Which, doesn't sound great, but if he's not scoring the ball the way that he did to close that third quarter, then a fourth quarter comeback's not even an option because the Pacers are probably down by 20 and they're getting ready for Friday. And so his ability to just kind of keep the boat afloat in that third quarter was huge for the Pacers. Look, he made some mistakes as well, had a couple bad defensive plays, committed the delay of game penalty, which resulted in Donovan Mitchell shooting a free throw, and not great in those moments. But the offense was there when the Pacers desperately needed it. And then the fourth quarter starts. And the fourth quarter was all about Aaron Nesmith and Tyrese Haliburton. Here is Coach Carlisle talking about those 2 guys down the stretch in that fourth quarter.
Nesmith made some amazing plays down the stretch. Loose ball plays, the tip dunk on the missed free throw was obviously, without that, we got no chance. And Tyrese, he came through again. And so we're very fortunate.
Rick Carlisle right there. Just straight into the point. Haliburton hit a big shot. Aaron Nesmith made a bunch of plays. And I'm going to go out on a limb here, say that Tyrese Haliburton is, in fact, not overrated. In fact, he's one of the clutchest players in the sport. Tyrese Haliburton is 10 of 11 on shots this season to tie or take the lead in the final 2 minutes of a game this year. And that clutch gene has showed up in the playoffs. Okay, because of that clutch gene, they stole Game 5 away from the Bucks. And because of that clutch gene, they stole the game last night. And he has started doing something that I've been asking him to do since last year, and that is take over games with his scoring. That's what he did last night. That's what he did in Game 5. Last night, 11 points in that fourth quarter, not 44. Right? And this is what people have been asking of him. And this is something he can do. He is an elite scorer. He just doesn't look to score the ball enough, right? Because his passing is his best ability, right? He's incredible. Okay? The best players in the NBA have this sixth sense that allows them to know when to take over games. And based off of the run that we saw from Tyrese Haliburton in the playoffs last year, I don't think that he had that, but he has developed it. He's had it so far throughout these playoffs. Just go back and look at Game 5 in that fourth quarter in overtime against the Bucks. Look at last night, the fourth quarter, where he goes for 11 points, 5 rebounds, and 1 assist. That's like a good stat line for Obi Toppin when he plays all 4 quarters. Okay? Like, that's how good Tyrese Haliburton was last night. And then you throw in the game-winning shot after perfectly executing a missed free throw and grabbing the offensive rebound off of your own missed free throw. And all of a sudden it becomes a legendary performance. We're going to be talking about Game 5 against the Bucks and Game 2 against the Cavaliers for a long time because of Tyrese Haliburton. Now, we don't get to this point without Aaron Nesmith. His energy, his defense, the competitiveness, just this, sheer will to win is what allowed for Tyrese Haliburton to have that moment. They switched him onto Donovan Mitchell in that fourth quarter. He pressed him full court, fouled him a few times, but I think that set a real tone that sped the game up a little bit. He had the putback dunk off the Siakam missed free throw with 47 seconds left to cut the lead to 5. Literally 2 seconds later, he forces the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell where he elbows him in the face. That gets the Pacers the ball back. They score again, cut the lead down to 3. He played outstanding defense as well, denying the ball on the Max Strus inbound turnover to Andrew Nembhard, which sets up Haliburton getting fouled, making the first free throw, missing the second, and then hitting a tough step back 3. Okay, Aaron Nesmith was awesome. And it's not even just the fourth quarter. He was great the whole game. He was 5 of 8 from 3 because that's what this dude does. He makes threes. He had 3 blocks because that's what this dude does. He plays defense. And he had 4 offensive rebounds because that's what this guy does. He just plays hard. Those 4 numbers right there perfectly encapsulate everything that Aaron Nesmith does for this Pacers team. He defends, he makes threes, and he just competes his butt off the entire game. He was awesome last night. And Tyrese Haliburton had a clip or a quote a couple weeks ago talking about Aaron Nesmith. And I think it so perfectly describes what we saw from him last night. So here is Tyrese Haliburton a couple weeks ago talking about Aaron Nesmith and what he brings to this Pacers team.
Yeah, I mean, that's who Double A is. I think what he brings doesn't always show up on the score sheet, but some people would say like they're willing to die for this. Double A is willing to die for this. He gives it his all every night, and I think every team in the NBA wants a guy like Aaron Nesmith. Every team who wins big and ultimately wins it all always has a guy like Aaron Nesmith. So love having a guy like that in our group who give it all for us. And he was really big for us tonight, and as he has been since he's come back from injury earlier this season, and he'll continue to be the rest of the year.
Tyrese Haliburton right there talking about Aaron Nesmith and just what he brings to this Pacers team and how it doesn't really show up in the box score. And we saw it last night. We saw the Aaron Nesmith is willing to die for this version of Aaron Nesmith last night. It was on full display. You couldn't miss it if you watched 30 seconds of that game because he was everywhere. And yes, Haliburton figured it out late and he hit a big shot. But that comeback does not happen without Aaron Nesmith. And it also doesn't happen without all of the Cleveland Cavalier mistakes that were made. In the final 57 seconds, the Cleveland Cavaliers allowed 3 offensive rebounds, committed an offensive foul, and turned the ball over on an inbounds play because they didn't have any timeouts left. That's a lot of mistakes to make in the final minute of a game. And the Pacers capitalized on every single one of them. Here's Jared Allen talking about the loss and the late game collapse.
It's just, damn. It's just one of those. He hit a tough shot. They came back. They did everything that they were supposed to come back on. It's definitely frustrating. We were up by 20. We felt like we were doing everything right to win this game, and just a couple moments led to our downfall.
Jared Allen right there talking about the loss. 5 moments led to their downfall. 5. 3 offensive rebounds, an offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell, and then Max Strus' turnover on the inbound. The Pacers capitalized on every single one of those mistakes. The Pacers scored after every offensive rebound that they grabbed in those final 57 seconds. Obviously, the Tyrese Haliburton game winner being the biggest of them all. Also, I know that Tyrese Haliburton grabbed that rebound, but it doesn't happen without Miles Turner tipping the ball in the air to keep it alive. The Pacers cut the lead to 3 after the Donovan Mitchell offensive foul. That Siakam layup was like one of the few moments where he actually showed up. Off of the Max Strus inbound turnover, we end up getting the Tyrese Haliburton getting fouled when going to the rim, and that sets up the eventual game winner after the, once again, beautifully missed free throw from Tyrese Haliburton. And the cool part about these final 57 seconds is everyone on the Pacers that played, and it was the starters really the entire fourth quarter, they all had to do something for this comeback to happen. Every Pacers starter made a key play in the final 45 seconds of the game. Aaron Nesmith has the putback dunk, and then he draws the offensive foul on Donovan Mitchell. Pascal Siakam has the layup to cut the lead to 3. Andrew Nembhard has the steal off of the Max Strus bad pass. Miles Turner has the tip out for Tyrese Haliburton to grab the offensive rebound. And then obviously, Tyrese Haliburton caps it off by hitting that game-winning 3. They needed all 5 dudes to get it done. And that perfectly encapsulates who this Indiana Pacers team is. Yes, Tyrese Haliburton is great. He's the best player on this team. He's one of the 12 best basketball players in the world. But this Pacers team is not about Tyrese Haliburton. This Pacers team is about everyone. Their offense is about the team and how they move the ball and how they share it and how they screen for one another and how they cut hard for one another and how when their teammate is open, they give the ball up. No matter who they are, no matter who's open. Their defense, when it's locked in like it was in that fourth quarter when they only gave up 21 points, their defense rotates and helps as well as any other defense in the NBA when they're really locked in and they're really trying to guard. This is a team in every sense of the word. And what we saw in those final 57 seconds fully showed that. Aaron Nesmith doing what he does best, making 2 hustle and grit plays. Andrew Nembhard, as great of an offensive secondary ball handler he is, his calling card is his defense, and he makes a big defensive play grabbing that steal. Pascal Siakam, wasn't great last night, but he's great around the rim, and he hits a big layup to cut the lead to 3. Miles Turner, not a great rebounder, but in game 1, he grabbed a big rebound late to kind of ice the game. And then last night, when the Pacers need an offensive rebound, he's the reason why they got it. And then, of course, once again, the head of the snake, Tyrese Haliburton, with a big-time step-back 3-game winner to take the Pacers home and give them a 2-0 series lead. Here is Mark Boyle on the call.
Cleveland doesn't have a timeout, so they'll have to make a successful inbound from the baseline, and then the Pacers will try to force a turnover. Failing that, they would undoubtedly foul. Second one is short, and it's rebounded by Haliburton. The Pacers have a timeout. Will they use it? No, they don't. Yes, they do have a timeout. 4 seconds to go. Haliburton for 3! 3 ball! Up top! Indiana by 1! 1 and 1/10 seconds to go. Inbound. Merrill didn't get it off, and this rivals the Milwaukee finish.
You have got to be kidding me.
Mark Boyle. We love Mark Boyle. He does a great job calling all these Pacer games. Just a big one. Big one last night. Tyrese Haliburton has been so impressive, not just on the court, but also off of it. Just the way that he's dealt with being, called overrated and, the thing with his dad after game 5 against Milwaukee. And he was asked after the game about the game winner and also about his team. And here's what the Pacers superstar, because that's what he is, Tyrese Haliburton, had to say about his game-winning shot, the pressure of it, and how resilient his team is.
I'm at peace. I'm at peace with my game. Understanding that I'm trusted in these moments. I have all the confidence in the world to make these shots. My teammates and my coach staff give me that confidence, and just trying to make plays out there. It's the NBA. Crazier things have happened. It's just what basketball is, and especially the end of our season has looked a lot like this. We've had many games where you could take a screenshot at any moment and be like, how did they win this game? But we just have a resilient group, man. We just figure out ways to win. We don't give up, and we're battle tested. We've, as a group, we've basically been together for about 2 years now. And that continuity has been really good for us. We've had to figure out so many different ways to win. When some guys got it going, when some guys don't got it going, we just find a way. And today that was what it was all about.
That's what it's all about. It's about finding a way. And I love that Tyrese Haliburton is at peace with his game. That's a very important thing, just knowing who you are, especially when people are chanting overrated at you every single night. The Pacers know who they are, and he said it there. He talks about how like this unit has been together for about 2 years now. They know each other well. Like they know what the other guy is going to do before they do it, and that's important. They know how they want to play. They know who does what well, and like knowing who you are is so incredibly important as a team. And this Pacers team, they know exactly who they are, and they're a tough bunch, man. And it's awesome to see. Game 5 Friday night. Cavaliers are going to come out and probably throw another hellacious punch, to use Coach Carlisle's word right there. And it's going to be great. Hopefully you are able to go to the game. When we come back here in about 4 minutes, Coach Atkinson just needs to stop talking. It's so annoying. I can't deal with it anymore. I've got the audio for you of Coach Atkinson complaining a little bit when we come back here in about 4 minutes.
The best takes. Maybe. The Real Jonathan Smith Show on Indy Sports Ticket 1430 AM, 93.9 HD2, and always on the free Indy Sports Ticket app.
What's going on? Welcome back to the Real Jonathan Smith Show here on Indy's Sports Ticket. Hopefully you're having a nice week. Hopefully you got to watch that amazing Pacers game last night. Hopefully you didn't have to listen to Kenny Atkinson continue to complain. I mean, geez, man. The officiating, not that bad. Not that bad, really, at all. Here is Coach Atkinson after the game last night, complaining even more.
We outplayed them for most of the game. We ran out of gas. We couldn't really separate ourselves. We couldn't get open in the half court. They're grabbing us, holding us. Couldn't really move. We couldn't get to separation. Every possession they just upped their physicality. Again, grabbing, holding. We couldn't move. We ran out of gas. My only regret, Dan, is not playing more guys. We shortened the rotation. Obviously, that could have been. That's my sole regret. But I loved how we competed. We played our basketball, our identity. Tough one.
Coach Atkinson, Cleveland Cavaliers head coach, and this year's coach of the year. On, just the end of the game last night, and he's right. The Cleveland Cavaliers did outplay the Indiana Pacers for long stretches last night. I mean, that first quarter from the Pacers was just absolutely abysmal. But, to complain about officiating when your superstar just took 21 free throws is kind of insane. It is very insane, honestly, if you ask me. And geez, he's complaining about the bumping and the holding. And it's did you watch your team in the first quarter? Did you see how physical those guys were defending the Pacers off the ball? I mean, they were just holding on to dudes. And of course the game got more physical the later that it got. Have you never coached in the playoffs before? This is just the nature of how these games go. And you have to be ready for that. That's part of it. It's part of being in the playoffs. It's part of being in these high leverage games. And, he complains about, fouls after game one. And I kind of get it. I do. A couple of your guys got hurt. Cool. No one got hurt last night. Stop complaining. Just monitor and adjust. That's what good teams do. Okay, losers complain about officials, and it's fitting because the Cavaliers are down 2-0, and that's really all that they've done in this series. It's just complain about officiating. So I'm tired of it. I hope that the Pacers sweep Cleveland because I don't want to have to listen to Kenny Atkinson anymore complain about officiating because, quite frankly, it's just really annoying. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to tune into the Real Jonathan Smith Show. Head over to YouTube, subscribe to Indy Sports Ticket. While you're over there, subscribe to the My Take Is YouTube page as well. If you want, more from me, the Dan Dockett Show is set to come your way next from noon to 3. Going to be an outstanding show after an outstanding Pacers game last night. Stick around. I promise it will not disappoint. The Dan Dockett Show comes your way here in about 5 minutes.